All right, welcome back to the Max Effort Kitchen. I am Matt. This is Cornell. We are your host for tonight. Cornell, hey, how you doing? How was your weekend? How's everything going?
It was good. It was today was the Two Pood sponsored SoCal weightlifting competition for the men. Yesterday was the women's. It was sponsored by Two Pood.
Two-day competition.
2 day men today, women yesterday. I personally believe there's two genders, so there's 2 days for lifting. So that's just me.
I like that. We're going to get to that in just a second because I want to talk to you about it and recap it. And I'm
genders
sure
or weightlifting competition.
Hey, either way, man. We could really ruffle some feathers. No, but I wanted to just hit on one thing really quick. And I know we talked about food last time, right? We talked all about food. And so I made it my mission over the week to really get out there and find prices. Well, I came to a conclusion. I went to Costco today. I bought 4 1-pound New York strips for $44, about $11 a pound. I bought 10 pounds of chicken breasts for $24, $2.40 a pound. I'm stoked on that.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. And I want people to know to get out to Costco because they're running some great prices right now. They had the roast that you were talking about, the chuck roast. Mm-hmm. I found one it was roughly 11 pounds. They were doing it $2.99 a pound.
Ooh, that's great.
I was like blown away. And I don't know if that's just today or what it was, but like their prices were looking really good. So that's my conclusion. That's kind of my ode to last show. And I'm going to leave the food at that. But last thing I want to bring up before we get into this competition is I know I've talked about it online on the Instagrams and all that. But I just want to give one more shout out to Kirby. Those shoes are so dope. Like I lifted in them yesterday. I was just like, man, these are cool. I almost don't want to lift in them because I like the way they look. And they're like, I forgot how new those shoes were. They need to be broken in big time. And so I think I've only worn them twice, but big props to Kirby. He did a great job. And so to the competition. You said Two Pood sponsored it. 2-day competition. I mean, obviously there were that many people that signed up. It's a SoCal. That's a pretty big competition down there, right?
Yeah, it's really big. It's really put together well. They do it. The one downside, but it's one of those things where I'll repeat what somebody told me at AO2. But the downside of it is they go 4 to 6 sessions, depending on how many people sign up. And your session is based on your total, your entry total.
Okay.
So the reason they do this is the competition goes much faster. There's not a whole bunch of people who are, let's say, beginners in any weight class who are then following themselves if they're doing it like based on weight class. Yeah. So the downside is, let's say you are a lighter lifter and you are in the first session or second session, like you don't get the medals aren't handed out till the end of the competition. So roughly 6:30 or 7:00 at night. Mm-hmm. So what was told to me by someone from Cal Strength, wouldn't really work if it was like a lighter lifter just in general. But they said, if you don't want to deal with all the crap and all of the inconveniences of like D sessions and like that type of thing, make sure you get yourself to A session as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And that's realistically kind of what this is it wasn't necessarily like there could be someone who won in the first session of the whole competition based on their weight class. But for the most part, there was one standout guy at the last session. I think he was a 73 and he snatched, I think, over 100 and he clean and jerked like 135.
Nice.
Like that's an A session lifter right there as a light person.
Okay.
So
that makes sense. So just so I'm understanding, You're saying that it's done by the total and it's not done by age and weight class. So like they make, they take everybody's, they line up the list of totals and they just break it off into a couple different sessions, right?
Sure. There was probably a super in every session.
Okay.
But you don't find out what the weight class, because they do all the medals based on weight class.
Makes sense.
But that all happens at the end of the competition.
I like that. That's an interesting way of doing it, but I like it for a couple of reasons. I think it allows for some really good back and forth competition within the session. Mm-hmm. I also think it allows for your typical meet, how it climaxes at the end because you got the biggest totals. That's fun, and it also keeps people there to get their medals. That might be a little bit of a strategy to keep people there. Like maybe you lifted in the first one and you got a medal, but you got to wait till the end.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a big deal. That's like you're being a part of the competition. You're hanging out. You could maybe even volunteer if you want. I don't know, or maybe you're helping other teammates. Like I don't think that's a big deal. I like that. I think it's really seamlessly done. It's easy.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad. It's just one of those. I'm also generally a last session lifter.
Yeah.
So the one downside is it's very often that a lot of the spectators are like kind of over it, so they leave. And I was talking to one of SoCal's supers, who's a woman, and she was like, "Oh, everyone's leaving again," and I'm like some people can't handle that, but that's what us last session lifters are used to. Like if you're at AO or one of those kinds of things, they're literally taking the platforms down while your session's still going on.
I remember hearing about that. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I wonder why that does happen. Like, because I understand it's like a long day of competition lifting and all that, and people got places to be and all that stuff. But like, to me, it's like you would want to wait to see those big, because everybody wants to see people lift big weights. You want to see who you're going there to see lift weights and perform and support them. But if they're in a lighter session, like you still want to see those bigger lifts. Like those, watching that is pretty incredible. And then just being there when it's happening, like being there live, I think it's a whole different experience.
Yeah, no, I think it exactly what you said. Like, yeah. I always wanted to see the big lifts. I listened to a video on Instagram of this guy he was a power lifter. Mm-hmm. And he said when he started, he didn't know there were weight classes. Like he thought that because everyone he always watched were just the big, giant, strong guys.
Yeah.
And granted, he is like 6'4", and then he ended up being like 290, 300 pounds, like shredded. I mean, juiced up beyond what you can imagine. But like, I liked hearing him be like, I didn't know there was weight classes.
That's interesting. A little side note to that is I went to a friend's, I guess you can say as a housewarming party type thing yesterday. Just, stopped by, gave him a gift, said hi, looked at their place, and they did a bunch of renovation. Anyways, he had a strongman competitor there, and it was a female. And she was explaining to me that in the Masters, because they don't have enough females to compete, that they just do it by age group. They don't do it by weight class. They don't do it by, I don't know if they'd even have totals, but like it's by like 40 to 45, or no, it's 10-year age gaps. So it's 40 to 50, 50 to 60. And I was like, wow, I mean, you must not have very many people. And she's like, well, they're pretty big, and me being somebody who's never actually watched a full-on strongman competition, had no idea what she was talking about.
Yeah.
But, it was interesting to listen to. And I don't think she listens to this, but she was huge. She was huge. I'm not going to say like Donald huge, but they would have been comparable.
Sure.
Minus the height.
That's cool. I bet she's strong.
Loped, dude. Loped. Like she's like, I just came from the gym, and she's still in her like tights and shirt. And I was like, holy crap, I would not. That's okay. We'll move past that. But yeah, she was loped. But anyways, I like the way they did that competition. That's cool.
Yeah, I really like how they run their meets. The one thing, and this is just me being in the sport for as long as I have and having to work my way to where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
They don't use competition clips anymore for these
Oh,
meets because they
interesting.
want it to go faster and quicker, and it does take a lot more time to
Tighten
set
up
a
the
competition
clips.
clip
Yeah.
every time. You got to tighten it, then you got to
Yeah.
tighten the clip to the weight.
Yeah.
And one of the things that maybe it's just me being, I don't know what, a baby.
Okay.
But I feel like a lot of these people are getting to add the second, or they're coloring up premature. Like they haven't, if they're snatching 120,
yeah.
like, yeah, there's a difference between snatching 120 in training and snatching 120 in competition.
Yes.
Like in training, you get to put the 2 reds on and you're
Yep.
like, cool.
Yep.
But it's training. So you get to do kind of what you want. Competition, it's supposed to be, you have to earn that 125 to get the 2 reds. And that was just me being kind of like a little baby of, I don't know what the better phrase is, but I'm like, they didn't earn that.
whenever I catch myself doing that, I'm like, I'm just being a grumpy old man, because I know that's where I'm going, and that's my future. So,
and this is my fear: if they get rid of the press out rule, that I will be like, oh, that wouldn't have been a good lift 6 months ago. Back in my day.
Like that. Yeah, no, I've always thought, and I don't know if you've had this thought or if anybody else out there, but I've always thought it was an advantage to walk onto a competition stage with colors that may look like less than what you've been training on your platform. Because for me, it's like a visual thing. It's like I see 130 on there as red, blue, green in my gym, but it's not that when you walk up to a competition. It's where they're working with change plates and the competition clips and everything. Yep. And to me, I'm like, oh, that's going to be a visual advantage for me. So maybe like a mindset thing. I don't know. I've never actually taken the time to recognize that advantage in a competition. But when I'm lifting or when I'm training or I'm leading up to it, I always think about it. I'm like, I'm going to load on what looks like the heaviest, because I know when I get on the platform, this won't look as heavy.
I think that's very true. Yeah. Like you visually see it, even if you're not counting it and looking at it, but your peripheral vision is seeing it. And let's say if you're going for that, like the 120, like if you see red, blue, you can't see the clips when you're setting up. So you're like, exactly. Oh, that's like 110.
That's 110. Oh, the mind hacks we can do. That's cool. So with this, with the competition, how'd it go? I mean, you were there just for today, correct?
Yeah, I missed a couple of people, but we had one male in every session today.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
I didn't want to get there at like 8 a.m. and then leave at 6. So I left at 10 a.m. I turned the Twitch stream on. Only paid attention to one lifter while I was driving up there. And I believe I just missed his snatches, and then I saw his clean and jerks. Nice. And then there was one guy before Ed who I think this was his second competition, and he did great. So
awesome. That's good stuff, man. Any craziness? Like, I don't know. I didn't watch it. Usually I really like to watch the SoCal ones because I like the way they broadcast and how they do all that. That's always neat. And they're pretty consistent about it. So, but I didn't watch this one for some reason. I just think I got busy today, whatever. But any drama with anything or?
One of the things that seems to happen fairly often is something happened with the software. And at one point, I think in the second to last session, there was 5 or 6 lifters left. Yeah. And I saw what was happening. And I just went up to Stephanie and I said, hey, just so you know, it's about to switch to cards. It's not going to be, the TV's going away.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, okay. I'm like, you good with that? And she's like, oh yeah, I'm good. I'm like, all right, well, watch a lot of people scramble right now. And then the owner got up and he's like, hey, we're having some technical difficulties. Rest of this session is going to be based on cards.
Nice.
And then you just saw people go like,
Oh,
no.
shit.
So
Yeah.
if you don't know what that means, it's how it used to be done, where the cards would just be on the table and there wasn't a TV that would
Right.
show who's up next and how to count. How you'd have to learn how to count. And then there's like I think the ladder system and the snake system. So one of them would be
boy.
like if you're looking at the table, it would be like, let's say 4 cards down and 4 cards to the side. You would go like start on the top left and you go 4 start. The snake would be 4 down and then the next one would be back up at the top. I think that would be the ladder. The snake would be 4 down, then 1 to the right, then back up and then over. So it's kind of like a snake. So it can get really confusing if you don't know what's going on.
That makes sense. So I got a question for you. You know what? Let's see. How can I phrase this? Because I've been noticing this in my training, and I've always been really sporadic about how I make my jumps in training.
Mm-hmm.
And my jumps, I try to, I go from like a 5 kilo jump, or maybe one day I'll be doing 7 kilo jumps. Or maybe, and then I move all the way to a 10 kilo jump. And I like that. On the squats, I'll probably do a 20 kilo jump because I'm okay with that until I get to pretty close to where my set is. And then I'll start bearing down with like the 10 kilo. But in your opinion, like, do you think that's a smart thing to do? Do you think that you should be more specific about the jumps, or do you think that jumps should be sporadic within your training?
I think it's good to train with bigger jumps so that kind of like we were talking about where you look at the weights and it visually looks smaller. Yeah. If you're used to a 10 kilo jump on the regular and all of a sudden you get to the competition and you go and open it, say 110, and then you're going to go to 115.
Right.
But you're used to going from like, let's say 105 to 115. You're like, oh, that's only 5 kilos. And it can be easier if you're used to training with bigger jumps.
Yeah. I like that.
Some of the other stuff that
go ahead.
I think we've talked about before. I was talking to a guy at AO2 and I was listening to the podcast with Norik, and he was explaining that the better you are at weightlifting doesn't mean the heavier weights you're lifting, because there's different times and different places and different age. You're going to get older. You're going to get hurt. But if you're able to make some bigger jumps, it shows that you know what you're doing. You don't just have to try a little bit harder, like 3 to 4 kilo jumps. Like, in my opinion, the smallest jump a man should make is 5 kilos. Smallest jump a woman should make is 3.
Yeah.
One of my training partners, I have kind of embedded that into her head, and she's a 5 kilo jumper now.
Nice.
So when it gets to competition and she only has to do 3 or 4, it's like, oh, that's a little jump.
Yeah.
It's not a nervous thing at all.
Well, and I've also noticed that like when your program's based off of percentages, the jumps are a little sporadic, because a percentage is not based off of a kilo pound or a kilo jump, but it's based off a percentage of a whatever. But it's going to be, maybe it's 7 kilos on your first, and then you jump to a different percentage, and then it's a 10 kilo. And that kind of like you just said, being prepared for maybe a lighter jumping competition could really set you up for success. I like it. I remember when we were on our previous team, I don't think I ever took a 115 clean and jerk. I always went from 110 to 120. And so when I started on Strength Tank, all of a sudden my jumps went from 107 to 114 to 121. And I was like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah.
This is just a weird, like, in between that I feel weird about taking this. And I mean, body adapted to it fine. But at the first couple times I was like, I can't believe I've never taken this weight before. That's also another thing, like taking random number weights, random numbers in the lifts could be a really good thing just in case you have to pivot in competition.
Sure. Or you show up to a competition and all their warm-ups are in pounds. I've had that happen a couple times.
No way. Really?
Oh yeah. So
Holy crap.
that throws a wrench into you as a lifter, and it throws a wrench into you as a coach. So
I mean, oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
All I was gonna say is like my Damon can attest for this with me. I am horrible in the middle of training with barbell math. I will forget. I will put on the wrong plates. And so finally, as we were starting to learn how to train with each other, I looked at him and I said, "Just say colors." It's just easier for me. I'm training hard, and my mind does not move to math and training at the same time very well. So I go, "Just tell me colors." And so now he just tells me colors and kind of makes fun of me about it, which is fine. it's in all good fun. But the barbell math thing is an interesting thing for me. So I think I would go with colors. But yeah, go ahead.
Here's my recommendation.
Okay.
When a coach programs a percentage, they're not necessarily understanding that, oh, well, this percentage jump may transition into a 4.9 kilo jump that some people would say 4, but then the one before it might be a 6.9 or 7.1 or something.
Totally.
Look at your program. Look at your top percentage, work back from there in the way that you would make jumps in competition.
Exactly.
The best lifters that I've seen, they have the red plates, the white plates, and the big plates. Yeah. They're not screwing around for 90% of their lifts with little tiny change plates. Work your way back. And so there's what you're doing then, there's certain people who are going to be real sticklers and be like, well, that's not what the program says. Like, okay, well, if you can't modify your program, that means you're not taking responsibility for your lifting.
Correct.
You want to go exactly kilo for kilo what the program says, so that if you don't perform well, you can blame it on the program.
Yep. It's the pointing of the finger like that. Yes. I didn't do well because of them.
And if you take ownership of your programming, slight modifications. I'm not saying be stupid, but I'm saying if you're supposed to clean and jerk 135 and the warm-up before was 131 and the one before that was 126, it's like, come on. You go 25, you go 30, you go 35. That's how you do it in competition.
Exactly.
So
I like that. And you taught me that, I don't know, within this past 2 years, but, and it totally makes sense. And so okay. And so here's the thing, we get all our programming on, I get it on Train Heroic. I'm sure you see it in the gym. I don't know how that,
No, it's the same. We all have it on Train Heroic.
Okay. So Train Heroic. And what I do is I take my programming, I pull it up, I put it by the whiteboard, and I write it down. Okay. And I start to see, if I see a decimal, I round up to, I'll round up to whatever I'm feeling for that day. So like a lot of times I'll see 99.3, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do 99.3. So I'll round it to 104. Okay. Or I'll round it to 100. It just depends on the day. It depends on where my body's at or whatever. But the one thing there's certain numbers out there that I'm just like, no, I would rather hit 100 because I know when I'm in competition, I'm going to hit that 100 right before I go on platform or, right before I walk up on stage. And I like that you said that because that trains the mind to train like you compete. And if you train like you compete, in a sense, obviously we're not using the same emotions and same intensities all the time. And there's maybe not the same focus, but if the bar is moving the same way as you compete, I think you have an advantage.
Yeah. And the other thing is you've been to these big meets where there's like the national stuff. It's a little different and local. Yeah. But in either competition, you're always going to have plenty of 2.5s, and you're going to have in national competitions, if you run out of, if you can't find your 2.5s, which should be kind of specified for your platform, but let's say that there were, Rogue has it set up with these kind of cool like A-frame plate holders.
Yeah, those are neat.
But sometimes you're going to have two people on one platform. And if you get lucky enough to have 2 bars, then all of a sudden there could be 4 bars sharing one A-frame of weights.
Yeah.
So you could not have 2.5s, but they always have a set or 2 of clips, which are the secondary 2.5s.
Yeah.
So you can always use those. And if you just get used to making the 5s and the using the 2.5s and the 5s for your jumps, or just use big plates, you're never going to be in a problem. But I've seen people scrambling, looking for that 1.5 kilo plate. And they're like, I only have one. I need to borrow another one. It's like, dude, use 1 or use 2. Don't use 1.5. Get over it.
Seriously. That's funny. Hey, I got a question. As you were talking about that, it kind of popped something in my head. Have you ever competed at a meet where you had a warm-up platform to yourself where you didn't share it?
Yeah. I mean, oftentimes in competition, like local meets, they'll have like the runways.
Okay.
So that's a little bit different.
Oh, I see.
It could be 30, 40 feet long, but it's like, this is my bar. This is like,
that's cool.
Most of the meets that I'm at, I don't have to share a bar.
Right. Well, you're usually lifting last.
Yeah, but
that's why, right?
Even at like nationals and worlds and stuff like that, I didn't have to share a bar.
Oh, really?
So it's USAW has gotten, since they took over, they are much more like 2 people per platform, and we'll be good.
Yeah, I've understood. I never understood that.
Yeah, USA Masters, they generally have like 8 to 10 platforms for warm up. Nice. And I think the last USAW one was 6, or was it 8? 6. 6, yeah. 6 and 12 people. Yeah. So they were kind of expecting everyone to have to share.
Yeah. And I always wondered, is that like a, because I don't know necessarily, but is it a strategic thing? Are they trying to get people to lift on the same platform? Or are they just that like, we're not going to put that much time and effort into the warm-up room. We would rather the stage look better.
It takes more room. It takes more money. It takes more equipment. It's just probably a cost thing, and USAW is very about their cost.
This is true. This is very true. So. Well, sounds like it was a good meet overall. What you have something coming up? Yeah.
2 weeks from yesterday is the Finest City Open. So
okay, and that's that Strength Tank.
That is that Strength Tank.
Yes, awesome. Are you preparing for something big? Are you treating it like a train through meet? I don't think I've really talked to you much about it. I know we've been talking around it, but and I knew it was there. But what are some of your objectives here?
When I first signed up for it, I had real big plans, and then my body's decided to say, you're old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now I'm kind of at that point where I'm like, I'm going to see what I can do.
Yeah.
So I have not that it matters for these local meets, but I have the highest entry total I've ever put in.
Oh, wow. Nice.
It's not too crazy. There's like sandbagging, and then there's like being cocky, and then like for when you put your entry in, and then there's like being unrealistic. So I was planning on opening around 140, 160, maybe 165. Okay. So I put a 322 entry, which is my highest total.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it was around 320.
I'm supposed to open within 20 kilos of that. So I wasn't being unrealistic, but normally I'm like, let's just say like a 300 entry. And that way, at the local meets, it really doesn't matter. They're not going to use the 20 kilos.
Have you ever seen that anybody actually get held to that?
I did. I'm trying to, it was at Worlds.
Okay.
Somebody sandbagged their snatch and then wasn't able to make the minimum opener with the clean and jerk.
Really? Holy crap, dude. And so do they, does like an official come back and is like, sorry, you're disqualified, you're out, or
No,
do they
they
let
they
them lift,
basically
or?
just tell them that like you have to hit, this is the lowest you can go.
Okay.
I think what happened is they didn't do good. I think they lowered their snatch number,
Yeah.
and then they tried to lower their clean and jerk before they went out, and they weren't allowed to.
Wow.
And I believe they bombed out.
Yeah, that's interesting. The way I've always used my total or my end total is from I'll take the total from the last meet
Mhm.
and I'll put it in there because I'm like, you know what? I hit it in competition. I know it's there, and I've never really gotten close to ever fearing about the 20 kilo thing. I guess it's probably because my numbers have stayed pretty close to the same, but I've always felt pretty strong about that. I've thought about, like, you know what I like, and I don't know if this is because it's within 20 kilos on both sides.
No,
Right?
only
under.
or under.
Okay.
So there was someone at Worlds who I believe they always put a really low entry, and then they'll set a world record from.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Someone who puts in a low entry and just makes huge jumps, and like knows that they're like 30 kilos over that entry already, so like they can do it. I've kind of enjoyed that. I'm like, man, I wonder, like, would that take the pressure off? Like, I guess you would go out, you would hit your opener, easy money, come back, take a couple lifts on your platform, go hit your second, and then get ready for that, like, world breaking or the record breaking one. I wonder how that would change.
From what I've been told is the guy who did it, I believe at Worlds, he does it at most of his meets.
Okay.
He does it so that he can just train to have that like 2.5, 3 minutes rest every time. So he's not going to get caught up in a potential like 8 to 10 minute wait in between.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to learn how to rush a lift, like to get your cardio back or like up to where you can hit maximal attempts, like 2.5, 3 minutes between.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to do that than it is to potentially have to wait 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. I've had to wait 10 minutes before. And I remember I was like, oh boy, I'm not feeling like I was doing like broad jumps in the back room just to try to keep my body warm. But yeah, that's an interesting strategy right there.
And then we did have one guy do that for this competition.
Oh, really?
But originally this meet was going to be a 1 day, like 2 males, 2 female, 2 male. And that's when he signed up. And then it sold out like super quick. So then they decided to make it a 2-day meet. And he drove down from like, I think the Bay Area. So he had to leave to get back to be home tonight.
Yeah. So
he entered with a pretty low entry, and then he did really well.
So he lifted in a lower or earlier time because of his low entry.
Yeah, I think he put in like a 2:30 entry, and then he finished with like a 123, 150.
Oh,
like
wow.
A 280.
Yeah.
Or I don't remember exactly what numbers he hit, but
yeah,
he hit a lot more than he
hit a lot more than he actually said he was going to. Yeah, that's interesting. I've always wondered how people play games with that. I mean, it seems, man, there's so much strategy back there, and just so much like games you can play and all that stuff. And I will say, at this last big meet that I was at, it was like, I was a little surprised with the lack of like sportsmanship, I guess. Usually I'll go around shaking people's hands. They weren't having it today. Like even like when we're in line to be announced, they didn't. They're just like, no, not into it. I'm like, okay. Hey, I'll respect that. Like I'd rather you just tell me no than just like give me some bullshit like handshake. I don't know, dude. It was interesting, but the games that are played in the back room are a lot. I think they're fun to watch.
Yeah, it's funny that people weren't having it at nationals because that session was like 5 weight classes.
I know. That's what I'm like.
There was a very good chance you weren't even going to be.
We're not even competing.
Somebody.
Yeah, it was funny. I found that to be pretty funny. But I mean, overall, it was I don't know. I mean, I remember you coming out of that saying, "Man, that was intense."
Yeah.
But you were also doing two people's cards, and you know, it was probably one of the bigger sessions.
Yeah, that was a minor stressful one. Minor was not the right word for that.
Nice. So you got one coming up, a competition coming up 2 weeks. Your body's kind of giving you some shit right now. So like the mindset, where you at? How you feeling with that? Are you good? You just kind of resting on like, hey, I've done this for years and years and years. I'll be fine.
That's what I'm telling myself. I'm telling myself I have over a decade of experience. I have, I think, 9 years of competition experience.
Nice.
This will be, I think, my third. If you count official meets, this will be like my 38th or 39th meet.
Nice.
So that's not counting any of the online like fake things that were out there that were technically like practice. They're like practice meets.
Practice meets, train through meets, yes.
And then I had one that unfortunately got you were there too. It got something happened and it got
unsanctioned.
Yeah,
unsanctioned.
So
still mad about that. Still mad about that.
So I'm kind of like, you know what? I know what I need to do, and I'm strong enough to do these things.
Yeah.
And I just have to not let the fear creep in of like, oh, I haven't clean and jerked 170 or more in like 4 months.
Yeah.
Like, okay. But like last week, a week from like 10 days ago, I got a text message from a possible client that was just really driving me nuts.
Okay.
Right. So I normally I always turn my phone to do not disturb.
Mm-hmm.
And this lady has been asking for prices for a while. And I told her, I'm trying to get you prices, but this is a big job. And this is not one that I can just throw a number out. I need to get prices from multiple people.
Yeah.
So at 5:55 or something, she texts me, are you ever going to get me these prices?
Oh my God.
And my phone is set to do not disturb. So that means that it said he's set to do not disturb, notify anyway. And she hit yes.
Oh, wow.
So that happened right as I'm grabbing my phone to set it up on the tripod to hit my top set.
Oh man.
My top single. Yeah. And it was like, I haven't clean and jerked this heavy since well before nationals.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like March. So 2 months. And I was just kind of like, program said 165. I'm like, we'll see how everything over 140 feels, because that's the heaviest I've clean and jerked since then.
Totally. Yeah.
And I worked my way up. I hit 160, no problem. And I'm like, okay. So I grabbed my phone to go set it up. And then I get this text and it just immediately like mental stuff just going on.
Yeah.
And I haven't missed a clean that was not a PR in probably like 3 or 4 years. Like, I don't know when was the last time I actually just missed no matter what percentage, if it wasn't a PR clean.
Right.
I missed 165.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this is a high percentage, but I missed the clean. I didn't even miss the jerk. So then I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll just get through this. Still thinking about this text message, getting all pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I pull it, I catch it, I rack it, but I'm on my toes. And I'm like, there's no point in standing this up because I'm not going to make the jerk.
Yeah.
So then I just dump it. I'm like, I just missed 2. So I think we might have talked a little bit about this, but I don't remember. What ended up happening leading up to this also that I was really good at getting through is I grabbed my bag out of my truck and I was taking it to my car, and my strap that holds my wrist straps and my pulling, like snatch straps / pulling straps, all fell off on my driveway, and I didn't know. So I had some backup stuff, but it's backup because I don't like it.
Right.
It's just straps and wrist straps that I didn't like them enough that I bought new ones right after.
Yeah. It's a good sign.
And I was wearing those wrist straps, And I also forgot my knee wraps. So I didn't have knee wraps. I didn't have any of this stuff. So I'm already like working through a bunch of stuff. Then I go and miss 2 cleans. So I was like, you know what? I don't need all this stuff on me that's not what I like.
Right.
And my kind of mindset on a belt and on wrist straps is I don't want to wear them unless I need them. But I was wearing them as like a preventative. I didn't want to get hurt.
Right.
Just because I hadn't lifted those weights in a long time. So I took the knee wraps off, or I didn't have the knee wraps. I took the wrist straps off. I took my belt, threw it to the side. I ended up taking my shirt off, chalking up my shoulders. Okay. And then I walked over, and it was like a joke how easy it was. Clean shirt with nothing on. I mean, just my pants.
Well, just my pants. That's a really neat story because it shows how a perfect storm. And I've had this too, where, you know, maybe not at that level, but like where a work text will come in the middle of training, and it just, I mean, it tears you apart. And you're just like, okay, I need to go, you know, walk around the block. I've done that before. I walked around the block, took some breath, got it out, and then came back and hit it. Not only did you get the text from the lovely customer, we'll say that, but you had equipment that you didn't have, and resetting your mindset, like that event right there you should be able to look at that and be like, yeah, I can enter any competition no matter what I'm at, and I'll do just fine. Because like, I don't know, like you don't get, you know, storms like that happen in training. You hear about people that get, you know, messed with in competitions and, you know, they burn people's clocks and you have to sit and all that stuff. And that happens. But when it's outside life, that affects your inside life training, man, that's a whole nother ball game. And I think that mindset right there, that you were able to like regain composure and like somehow get out there and hit that thing and then say it was light. I mean, come on, man. I would probably take that and just like mentally tuck it in the back of my head for when I'm at a competition and I need it.
Yeah, I think what I also did is what I kind of was doing is after I got that text, and then I'm like, stupid wrist straps. I don't have my knee wraps. I haven't lifted a belt in a long time. I was putting blame on everything else. And I was like, I don't need these wrist straps. Yeah. My wrists feel fine. I put them on as preventative. It was a crutch. This belt, I haven't really been lifting in a belt in a really long time, just trying to strengthen my back.
Right. Right.
Why am I wearing the belt when I haven't been wearing a belt for weeks? The knee wraps are like, I'm moving around a lot now. I don't need them to like stand up out of a squat or anything like that. That's a preventative, but if I don't have them, I always lift better without them. And I was like, I don't need these. Let me just put this all on me, not on, I don't want to have anything to blame. I don't want to say like, oh, I didn't have my perfect straps. I didn't have this. I didn't have that. And someone was playing the music I didn't like. And like, you need to be able to turn all that off. There's one song I will walk over to the iPad and change. It's only one.
Would you like to share what that song is?
I don't know what it is, but it just sounds like a dying goat. It's like a rap song, and it's just the guy is yelling for no reason, and it doesn't go to the music, and it's
That's awesome. Damn kids and their music. I know, I get it. I think that you know, mindset is half the battle, and that's a pretty cool story, and I'm glad you shared that because more people could learn you know, how to approach weightlifting in that kind of manner. And I think that's a really, really strong thing to do.
That's why I've always been so adamantly about not snatching in a belt.
Right. For those reasons right there.
I've seen so many people that are like, oh, well, I'm at 60%. This is where I put a belt on.
I need my belt.
You don't need it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, but it's what I do all the time. What happens when you forget it?
Yep. Yep. Exactly. You cannot let that stuff get in your head. It happens a lot easier, and it's so easy to blame something else. You know, it's just called taking accountability for your actions. That's all it's about. All right, Cornell, we're about 45 minutes in. I think that's a good place to stop. That was a great story to end it with. I will say that next week we are going to be live on Saturday, 5:00 Western Pacific time, 8:00 Eastern time. And we have a great guest. I'm not going to say who it is yet. I will say he is a 5-time national champ, Masters national champ. I don't know if I have to say that or not, but
I would, because I think it's being honest.
Okay, Masters national champ, and also has a pretty extraordinary life story. So look forward to having that guest on. And like I said, we'll be on Saturday live show on YouTube, Max Effort Kitchen, all that stuff. So anyways, man, I'm not good at all this like plugging of things.
Let's say he's also won Worlds at least once.
Yep.
And he got the Grand Slam, which is like means he won Nationals, Pan Ams, and Worlds in the same year.
Wow.
It's a big deal.
That's a big deal. That's a real big deal. I'm so stoked to have him on. And I hope you guys all tune in for that one. Cornell, thank you as always. I appreciate you getting back in time to be on the show. I mean, man, that's awesome. So I hope you have a great night, and we'll talk to everybody later. Adios.
Bye.